Good evening, Lake Orion. Welcome to the annual NCAA preview show, compliments of your friends from Between Taorminas. Yes, indeed, Lake Orion. I said it right. It was the special NCAA tournament preview show here on Between Taorminas on ONTV. Here I am with Sammy. You want to know why Ian Weatherspoon's not on the show this week? Well, Ian Weatherspoon couldn't make it this week. He has other commitments going on. So I'm hosting this week. And plus, when it comes to college basketball, that tends to be my forte. Sammy, how you doing today?
I'm hanging in there, just getting ready to talk some NCAA tournaments, and if you need help with your brackets, I'm the right guy to help you and to solve your NCAA crisis issues.
God help us all. All right, let's discuss the South region with the overall number 1 seed. Let's see if we can have the bracket on there. Thank you. We got Florida, the number 1 seed, gonna play either Albany or St. Mary's.
Albany's
What's your view on this bracket?
Oh God, when I look at this bracket, I can see I look at it and I look at Florida, probably getting an easy path here. Albany has the most disgusting uniforms of all time. But I look at Florida, they're very, very good. They're very disciplined. I do question their conference schedule because besides Kentucky, they really don't have, they played a tough non-conference schedule. They played Wisconsin. They played some other good teams, you know what I mean? But I think if you look at the most dangerous team in there, and it wouldn't surprise me that if you watch that 7 versus 2 game in St. Louis when New Mexico plays Kansas, they played earlier in the year. Kansas does not have their center. I like New Mexico to go to the Sweet 16.
When I look at the South bracket, I look at a couple things that I tend to notice. Ohio State's a 6th seed, but also you look at the underdogs a little bit. Number 12, Stephen F. Austin, playing VCU, and also Western Michigan. Western Michigan's in it representing the MAC, and they're playing Syracuse in the first round.
Oh, it's an interesting matchup, I think, for Western Michigan because, Syracuse, very athletic 2-3 zone, but Syracuse has struggled the last few weeks. They've had a really bad injury, happen to one of their guys, but also I just think that Syracuse, they can use this to get back. They can use the tournament to get back into things. But also, I think the team to watch out for in this tournament, Stephen F. Austin. They've won the Southland champions. They won 28 straight games. They're going to give VCU problems, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you can't underestimate Shaka Smart and VCU because they have gone far in the NCAA tournament before. They've been here before.
What about Ohio State and Dayton?
Ohio State and Dayton, both teams can't score.
Right.
You got to go with Ohio State because Aaron Kraft. But it could be a really close game late.
So overall, you're looking at Florida advancing out of this bracket.
I look at Florida advancing out of this bracket because they got experience. They're talented. You never know with Kansas. I think Kansas going out by, I think we're getting eliminated by New Mexico. And then, of course, Syracuse. You can't underestimate the Qs in their 2-3 zones.
I think Western Michigan can get them. Western Michigan can get them.
Yeah, they could. We'll see what happens.
And Stephen F. Austin, as you said, don't count them out for 1 minute.
Don't count them out.
All right, let's take a look at the West bracket, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to combine both the South and the West bracket. Let's take a look if we can get the West bracket out, ladies and gentlemen. The number 1 seed is Arizona. They're playing Weber State. You got Gonzaga in there, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, North Dakota State. You've got Baylor, Nebraska, San Diego State, New Mexico State, Creighton, Lafayette, Oregon, BYU, Wisconsin, and American. What do you think about that? And I would say my upset special would be North Dakota State beats Oklahoma.
It wouldn't surprise me at all with Oklahoma and North Dakota State because I just think that the Bison got some experience. Taylor Braun's a very good player. Another team to watch out for, I think they're going to beat Oklahoma, and, I think they're going to move on. But a team to watch out for, in my opinion, is Creighton because of Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott can score from anywhere. I mean, like, basically, Creighton really is not a one-man team with the exception of McDermott. I mean, like, I could see Creighton making the Sweet 16, but they're going to have issues either with Wisconsin and Oregon. That Oregon-Wisconsin game, if they do play, that's going to be a scary matchup, I think, for Wisconsin.
One team that scares me, Oklahoma State. Look at Oklahoma State. They got
Marcus
Gonzaga,
Smart.
And then they could be playing Arizona.
Oklahoma State's a deceptive 9 because here's why. Because Marcus Smart was suspended for 3 games.
Yeah, I know that.
And of course, if he's on, Oklahoma State's dangerous. I think Oklahoma State can give Arizona fits because of the way they play. The Big 12 this year was a very tough conference. I just think that if you look at it here, Arizona could have issues with Oklahoma State and maybe San Diego State. But you know what also intrigues me is Baylor, Nebraska.
I agree.
That one. A Big 12 rematch. Now Nebraska's in the Big 10 now. I mean, like, this is going to be a heck of a matchup. It wouldn't surprise me if Nebraska upsets Baylor.
I think that game, I agree with you. Nebraska and Baylor is going to be a very, very entertaining matchup. I think that, you can't sleep on Nebraska, not for one bit. Baylor is a very, very, very good team, though.
They started off bad.
Yeah, I know, but they're still extremely good. A lot of people are saying Arizona's the favorite, but I mean, you cannot count out, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, as you said, deceptive 9. Creighton.
Can't count out Oregon and Wisconsin.
No, not at all.
Because I think
Wisconsin
if you look at
Oregon,
Wisconsin and Oregon,
and Wisconsin,
that's 2 different styles.
Yes, 2 different styles.
Oregon's fast-paced. Wisconsin loves to slow it down.
Defensive-minded.
Right.
I mean,
like, you look at it here, but the game's in Milwaukee. And
that's
going to favor Wisconsin.
Yes, it is, because of Wisconsin's going to have a little bit of a home field advantage.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at that matchup. This is why I'm going to go Wisconsin. Even though it's in the West region, even though that side of the draw favors Arizona, I like Wisconsin because of their defensive mentality. Frank Kaminsky, I think, will have a bounce-back tournament. Wisconsin, this is a different Wisconsin team. If Wisconsin, thankfully, is out of the Big Ten right now, and going into the conference because not a lot of teams know what Wisconsin can bring.
Other than the defensive slugfest mindset.
Everybody in the Big Ten knows about it.
Well, any final thoughts on the South bracket or the West bracket?
I like Florida and I like Wisconsin coming out, both those brackets.
You like Wisconsin? Interesting, because I think that the West bracket can go either way. You got Oklahoma State in there. You've got it can go either way in the West bracket.
Doug McDermott's the best player in that.
Yeah, but I mean, one player doesn't control the tournament.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about both the East bracket and also the Midwest bracket here on Between Taorminas, NCAA Tournament Preview Edition on Between Taorminas on ONTV. Welcome to the special NCAA Tournament edition on Between Taorminas on ONTV. I'm here with Sammy. Sammy, good South and West brackets. It feels tough though. A couple teams not in the NCAA tournament. SMU got screwed.
Yeah, they got ripped off.
SMU was a ranked team that got screwed, and they're not.
Look at their non-conference. I mean, it was 300. That's why they're not in the tournament. If you play a tough non-conference schedule, then I think you get into the tournament.
What about Wisconsin Green Bay?
They beat Virginia.
I know.
They beat Virginia. And how are they not in? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, the Horizon League has always been a very, very good conference when it comes to bringing in multiple teams from the tournament. Also, same conference that Oakland is in and Detroit is in.
Florida State's not in it.
Yeah, Florida State's not in it, nor Minnesota. I mean,
no.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
But it is what it is. I mean, you don't see a lot of those
How is
teams.
North Carolina State in the tournament? That's what I want to know.
We'll figure that out in a minute. Let's talk about the Midwest bracket. Probably seen as the toughest bracket in the NCAA tournament. You've got Wichita State, the only undefeated mid-major darlings, the Shockers, the #1 seed. Then you got, this is on the bottom side of the bracket. You've got Michigan. You've got Duke. You've got Arizona State, Texas. I got Iowa or Tennessee and UMass all in the bottom bracket. On the top bracket with Wichita State.
How does Louisville get a 4 seed?
Can I finish? Thank you. You got Wichita State. You got Kentucky versus Kansas State. NC State, Xavier, St. Louis. Louisville, a 4 seed in Manhattan.
How does Louisville get a 4 seed? They're playing their best basketball right now. They just won the American Conference.
Yeah.
And yet, how does the committee reward Louisville with a 4 seed? Why? I think Rick, and then of course you look at this part of the bracket, all 4 Final Four teams are in this side of the bracket.
From last year, yeah.
Of Duke. You look at Wichita State's there, Michigan's there, Louisville's there. I mean, Wichita State, I'll bet you, they had a great season. Undefeated season, but I think they're going to get knocked out by Kentucky. Kentucky's probably the most underrated 8 seed, I think, in this whole
Underrated
tournament.
in Kentucky? That doesn't make sense. Underrated in Kentucky. Did you just look what you just said about that? Underrated in Kentucky. No.
I think Kentucky's better than an 8.
I agree that Kentucky's better than 8, but I mean, an underrated Kentucky.
How do you give Louisville a 4?
That's a very good question. How do you give Louisville a 4?
And then you look at a team like Michigan. I think Michigan's the most overrated #2 seed in this tournament.
No.
Yeah, they are. Because if you look at it, Louisville has a much better case than Michigan for a #2 seed. Michigan should have been a 3 seed or a 4.
Michigan went through the toughest conference, which is the Big Ten. They won the regular season conference championship. They almost won the tournament championship. Michigan did this without Mitch McGary, probably one of the best centers in college basketball.
Michigan doesn't have an interior game.
No, I know that. But if you look at who Michigan's pool is, let's open that bracket up again, please. Michigan's got to play Wofford. Then you're looking at either Texas or Arizona State. That ain't going to be easy.
They played Duke earlier in the year at Cameron.
Then they got to play Duke. Obviously, they did lose to Duke.
Well, you can't underestimate Mercer because if you look at it here, it wouldn't surprise me. Mercer can match Duke. They got some size. I mean,
Duke's going to beat Mercer. I cannot see Mercer matching up with Duke.
Well, if Mercer upsets Duke, it wouldn't surprise me there. But what would be interesting? I think the winner of Iowa-Tennessee is going to beat UMass.
You think
so? And I think the winner of North Carolina State and Xavier is going to beat St. Louis. St. Louis, they were the #1 team in the Atlantic 10 in their tournament, until they lost a really, really tough game to the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure, who was a 9 seed. A 9 seed in that tournament. Are you kidding me?
Well, I guess
St. Louis does not deserve to be a 5.
St. Bonaventure, give them credit. They deserve to beat St. Louis, and bottom line is, give them a lot of credit. Wichita State, do they deserve to be a #1 seed?
They played a really bad schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Tennessee, who's an 11 seed. But, I just think that Wichita State, they're going to learn a lot. I mean, they've been they've been very good the last few years. But also, I just think this is going to be a very painful experience for Wichita State, especially come Sunday when they have to play Kentucky. Because Kentucky can match them athletically. If Kentucky can beat Kentucky, then Wichita State's got no chance. I know they're physical, but
you're looking at possible Sweet 16 matchups between Louisville and Kentucky, and then Michigan and Duke. Those are two there in Indianapolis. Do you think because Michigan played in the Big Ten tournament, do they have an advantage there?
Yes and no, because you got to look at it here. They know it's because look at the quality of opponents they're playing. You know, they'll be playing Duke. You know, they will possibly be playing Louisville. You know, and then, of course, you know, a lot of people are looking at Wichita State. You know, they can beat Kentucky.
They can.
They won't get past Louisville in the Sweet 16.
Louisville.
I mean, if they're in the Elite Eight, I congratulate them. But I'm not crowning Wichita State. Now, for Michigan's sake, I think it does give an advantage to play in Indianapolis because they were there 3 days. They know the site, you know, but it'll be a different site because I think they're going to be playing at Lucas Oil Stadium. But I just think if you look at it here with Michigan, it's really going to be can their interior develop, especially Jordan Morgan and Al Horford. They might have to play together on a couple times. And also Glenn Robinson III.
The question, what I saw when I was watching Michigan play Illinois, Ohio State, but also Michigan State was lack of rebounding. And it's obviously very, very tough to rebound in a zone. Michigan's got to fix that rebounding edge if they have any chance of winning games. And you look at that schedule from Michigan, Wofford, Texas or Arizona State, both teams no easy cookies. Duke, Louisville or Kentucky, and then
Duke could give Michigan problems, I think, you know, because especially from the outside, if Michigan doesn't shoot well, they get beat.
Pretty much. I mean, we saw that with Michigan State.
Is. You know, it's all Michigan is. It's a shooting team. You know, if Glenn Robinson III has a big day, if Nick Stauskas has a big day, you know, Spike Audric has a big day, or even Al Horford or Jordan Morgan have a big day, Michigan still lives and dies with a three-point shot.
Do you think Louisville is the favorite to come out of the bracket?
Yes, because if you look at stats in the NCAA tournament, Louisville, I mean, like number 4 seeds have actually been to the Final Four more times than any of the seeds currently in the NCAA tournament since 2010. I mean, like, you got to look at it here with the number 4 seed. It's a really good seed. I like Louisville in this bracket because, one, of experience, two, I think they're playing one of the best basketball right now. I just think that Louisville's got enough interior. They got enough depth. And, of course, you got Russ Smith, who's playing lights out right now for Louisville. And let's not forget Rick Pitino. He is one of the best coaches in the country, especially, you know. He had that one bad stint in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. But I think Rick Pitino's going to bring this team to the Final Four and maybe even championship game. Who knows?
So you're going with Louisville?
I'm going with Louisville.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about the last remaining bracket, which is the East bracket here on the NCAA March Madness preview show on Between Taorminas on ONTV.
Hi, this is Sean Belligeum from Fox 2 and State Champs, and when I am in Lake Orion, I do not miss Between Taorminas. You want to know what's going on locally? How about that Lake Orion hockey team? They've got quite the program going. Go check out Between Taorminas.
Hey, Sammy, Anthony, and Ian, this is Dan Miller from Fox 2 News and the voice of the Detroit Lions. Congratulations on 2 years. A lot of shows don't make it that long, but you guys are obviously doing the right thing, so way to go. Keep it going. Keep doing what you do, and we look forward to talking to you again next year when you hit another anniversary. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.
Get Sean Belligeum and Dan Miller on the show.
Welcome back to Between Taorminas here on ONTV. March Madness is here, ladies and gentlemen, the March Madness preview show. Now we got one more bracket to preview before you make your picks.
We gotta get Sean Belligeum and Dan Miller on the show one of these days.
You just mentioned that. All right, but let's talk about the last remaining bracket, the East bracket, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the East bracket. You got Virginia as the number 1 seed. You've got Memphis in that, Cincinnati, Harvard, Michigan State, North Carolina, Iowa State, UConn, Villanova, also Wisconsin, Milwaukee, the Horizon League champions in there.
Well, let's look at this bracket here. I mean, like, there's one glare I can see, and that's the name Michigan State. They're getting healthy at the right time. They just won the Big Ten tournament. You know, again, interesting matchup in Spokane with Delaware. Delaware's not a bad team. Be a tough match for Michigan State, but I just think Michigan State's got enough to win that one. But perfect matchup, you know, Memphis, George Washington. That's gonna be a fun game. You know, that's gonna be a pick'em right there because like that's a toss-up. Because George Washington has 2 transfers that can match up well with Memphis. But if you want to look at the perfect upset in this bracket here, then look at no doubt if you look at the Smart Guys Convention of Harvard going up against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got Sean Kirkpatrick. They don't have a true number 2. Tommy Amaker's done a very good job at Harvard. You know, I mean, like, and then of course you look at Virginia, regular season and conference champions in the ACC, which is a tough league to do, especially when you have Duke and North Carolina in that league. You know, and then of course North Carolina disappointment. Iowa State's a dangerous team. I think Villanova is overseeded. I think that they're not. They don't.
When I look at Villanova, you know, I think one thing that bothers me about Villanova, the NCAA always seems to hype up Villanova. Do you think do you think they do that on purpose or?
Well, they want to look at maybe possibly of a Villanova-St. Joe's matchup. That would be a Big 5 matchup, you know, or maybe even a UConn-Villanova matchup, a rematch from the old Big East. But you got to look at. I think Villanova gets way too much hype. I think Villanova is overrated in that bracket. I just think if you look at that side of the bracket, I just think, you know, there's really 2 clear teams, maybe even 3 if you count Virginia, that are clearly better in the field in this region.
Do you think that Iowa State, possible Iowa State, maybe North Carolina matchup, and do you think that North Carolina can actually upset Iowa State?
North Carolina doesn't have another true 4 because, you know, besides McAdoo, they really don't have another guy interior that can match them up. Iowa State, you know, they're the Big 12 champions. They beat Kansas without their center. But I just think if you look at it, North Carolina's got a shot, but they got to play well if they want to beat Iowa State.
If you look at, now let's talk about Michigan State because Michigan State has Delaware. Their pool looks like, if we can pull off the bracket again, it looks like Delaware, and then they're either going to play Cincinnati or Harvard. That looks winnable. They're probably going to see Virginia in the Sweet 16. Elite 8, either Iowa State, North Carolina, Villanova. Michigan State's got a pretty nice pass into the Final Four.
This is a great seed for Michigan State because, yeah, you're playing Delaware first. You know, it's a very interesting matchup. I think Michigan State, they're going to beat Delaware. I think they're going to play Harvard. You know, it'll be an interesting matchup. I just think Michigan State, you know, getting healthy. You got Keith Appling. You got Adrian Payne, Brennan Dawson. Brennan Dawson's back makes a clear-cut difference for this team. You know, along with Dawson and Payne. You've seen it last night. You've seen it with Michigan. You know, what they did to Michigan on the boards. If Michigan State gets the same production they got against Michigan, they dominate the boards. They dominate the interior.
And Wisconsin.
If they go transition-wise, you know what? I think they'll go to the Final Four. You know what I mean?
But if this is the same Michigan State team with all their players back that lost to Illinois and East Lansing, also, all those ESPN experts have Michigan State winning it all. Remember what I have said in the past about Michigan State. They like to do business under the radar. When they're picked like this, they tend to struggle.
They were a 2 seed in the 2009 Final Four.
But still, they were still, quote, under the radar. Not everybody was talking about them.
And then always also talk about the top seed in the tournament, which is Virginia.
I know, that's a scary omen.
Virginia is an interesting matchup because, you know, they got a very good front court. They're a very good team, but they've had some really bad losses earlier in the year. I mean, like, yeah, Green Bay counts as one. It counts as a bad loss for them. But, you know, Virginia, I just don't think that Virginia has seen a team like they're going to see if Michigan State and Virginia do play like Michigan State, because Michigan State's got experience on their side. They got a deep bench. They're talented. You know, I could see it happen.
I think that it'll be very, very interesting. So you got Sparty Final Four.
I got Sparty in the Final Four.
Now we're going to talk about your picks. Now, what is your picks? Final Four.
When I look at the Final Four, you know, I look at Florida coming out of the South. Michigan State in the East. In the West, I have Wisconsin, and then the Midwest will be Louisville. I think it's gonna be Michigan State and Louisville in the championship game. You know, I just think because I think those are the two best teams right now. They're playing the best basketball right now. You know, and I expect and my national champion this year, for 2014, will be the Michigan State Spartans. Will win the national championship this year because of experience, because of talent, deep bench, and Tom Izzo. So you're going with the ESPN experts. You're picking Michigan State to win the national championship, much like Dick Vitale, much like all the other ESPN experts. I have my different reasons why I'm picking Michigan State. You know what I mean? I have different reasons because of the depth, because of the because I just think the cohesiveness. If they're not cohesive, then they're going to have problems.
I think that it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm not going to release my Final Four until Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. I just choose not to. I just want to see how the matchups are going to be for Tuesday. But I'm going to say this. I think it's going to come down to a lot of people are going to say Michigan State. A lot of people are going to say Florida. A lot of people are going to also say Louisville. And, you know, there's going to be some that say Michigan, some say Duke, some say, you know, any other team out there. The thing is that don't underestimate these mid-major schools. Some of these mid-major schools are going to be very good. They're going to surprise some teams out there. I think there's going to be some upsets. Ultimately, in terms of the bigger schools, you know, if bigger schools get overconfident, they could lose. One thing that scares me, as I said about Michigan State is a lot better team under the radar. Michigan, obviously not a lot of people are talking about them. Western Michigan could actually pull off an upset against Syracuse. Anything could happen in the NCAA tournament. From my 2 years in the NCAA tournament at Oakland, when we played in the NCAA tournament, we had two very good matchups with Pittsburgh in 2010 and Texas with 2011. We almost pulled it off on both times. It's just that it's very, very, it's a challenging experience, but it's also a fun experience. So fans, if you have the chance to go out there to the NCAA tournament, do those, you know, have fun, value that experience. If you're doing a bracket, choose wisely and have fun.
And also, you never know when you go back. You can go back, you know what I mean? Unless you're a big school, if you're a mid-major, you know what I mean? There's no, you know, in mid-majors usually have one big league, you know what I mean? So it's hard to, you got to win your conference tournament.
Mm-hmm. Well, that does it for this special March Madness preview, basketball preview show on Between Taorminas on ONTV, Lake Orion. Have a good night. God bless America.
And enjoy the March and enjoy the tournament.